Hello and welcome back to the channel. To new members, I would kindly ask of you to subscribe. This is our weekly segment of Mega Jackpot recap. It's the things that we have learned from the SPORTPESA Mega Jackpot so far. From the past week of 18th of 19th, 2025 of January, let's see how and what we have learned so far. Before I start, please note that I'm not a certified betting expert and everything or predictions in this channel are based solely on my prediction perspective and analysis. Always bet responsibly, risk wisely, and consider my insights as general opinion rather than professional advice. I want to clarify that I'm not sponsored by SportPesa or have affiliation to any other betting organization. So straight up, 18th to 19th January 2025 Mega Jackpot predictions alongside the results. So we had a very poor prediction outcome, which resulted to us only getting one match out of the 17, which is very, very poor. We hope that next week will be better and it will be slightly better than this week. I don't know what to change, but I don't think that there's anything to change. Just that games that games that do come in the mega jackpot, you might find that your prediction might have been off that week, but the same way that you've been predicting, the way you think in games is basically a good way to think. It might not work out this time and then probably works out the next time round. So a poor result this week doesn't necessitate you to change your principles, but can be a good one next week. So yeah. So in our first game of the mega jackpot, it was Juventus versus AC Milan. So Juventus and AC Milan played out to an evenly fair first half with nothing to report up until the 59th minute when Juventus had a 5-minute spell and they just rumbled it. In that 5 minutes, they had 2 goals quick fire. And yeah, Milan, though, they they have actually to blame themselves because they lost the game because they had numerous of chances and they could have even put this one away. So they are becoming Chelsea, which is another team of two halves, which wastes a lot of chances and end up getting punished in game. So I think this game was not a bad one to predict it through, but Juventus just kind of aced it. Uh, Utrecht versus Alkmaar. I had predicted Alkmaar to win. Alkmaar kind of dominated this game, and for the most part of the game, that they were clearly the better side. But football can be cruel. They couldn't convert their chances as well. It's this one is another Milan, and well, the match ended in a frustrating 0-0 draw for this game. So yeah, that's how football does go. So for game number 3, Atalanta versus SS Napoli. Napoli are title contenders, and the way they play this game, finding that last goal with relentless pressure from Atalanta, who are putting them under spells and spells of pressure. I think Napoli just found a way to keep their back intact. Even if they conceded 2 goals, they had to find that goal to win it. They are in the title race, and going forward, I think Napoli is a determined winner for solid picks for victories against top oppositions in their league. So Celta Vigo and Athletic Bilbao. Athletic have an habit of sorry, of beating lower ranked teams below them, and they scrap of wins. 2-1s mostly. I've seen that against Osasuna. Now it was yesterday against Celta Vigo, and yeah, consistent against weaker teams. That's a good trademark to have, and I think you can bet on them when they are placed in the jackpot against a lower position. They can scrap of a win. For Celta, I don't see they've not been on form. So even the draw was a huge call from my side. So Bilbao, you can bet on them to win against weaker opposition. So Almere City versus Heracles. Now Heracles have picked up form against Almere. Now in Netherlands, weak teams rarely pose a threat, and this is a very good example. Weak teams in Netherlands typically play out for draws, and against very very huge oppositions, they are beaten. They pose rare threat, and this is a good example. well, we can say Heracles is not a very big opposition, but beating Almeria was easier for them. 2-0 is a solid win, and you can bet on them to pretty much any team, mid-table team against a low opposition in Netherlands. Mostly pick the win because these teams have even racked up very very minimal points. So yeah. I think I can record from Cantazarano is it's becoming the king of draws. Against top opposition, it's making sure that their backline is solid enough to not concede goals. So against a strong Pisa side, they managed to snatch a point. Expect them to keep pulling off stalemates in tight games. So against the likes of Sassuolo, against the likes of Spezia, Cantazarano might get a point in those kind of games. So yeah. Honestly, not much can be said about this encounter number 7, Palma and Venezia. It was an even encounter where both sides shared the spoils. Now, Venezia is fighting for every point to survive in this Serie A. So it will keep scrapping points. So against mid-table teams, you expect a lot of draws. If it did draw with Juventus, I think Venezia will be a tough outing for many, many, many teams till the end of the season. Now the EPL is something that I don't know how to say it, but teams with leaky defense do concede a lot of goals. EPL is very physical, and you expect teams that don't know how to defend well to concede very well. So Spurs' leaky defense cost them here again. The youngster, even the way they position themselves in their box, was kind of awful. Like for the second goal against Everton. Now Everton on the counters attacks were lethal and Tottenham posed threats on the ball, but they couldn't just take the chances. They started taking the chances in the second half when the match was already too far gone, Jan. Everton seems to be mastering the art of breakaway goals, and yeah, they played that against top teams earlier. And Spurs, of course, their defense is leaking too many goals and they're conceding too many counters. So you expect them to continue conceding. Can I say a thing about Saint-Étienne? Saint-Étienne is now focusing more of possession, but that possession now is coming with vulnerabilities of being counted too many times. So against Nantes, this was their occurrence because Nantes had too many counterattacks against Saint-Étienne, but they didn't put them all away. So the game ended in a 1-1 draw. Saint-Étienne had the ability to come back and win a draw this game. So Nantes, on the other hand, is a good outing on the break. Recently, it has been showing that, and yeah, these are the kinds of things that I've come to see against these teams. Notice how I said in my prediction that the Oficrete's opponents usually get red cards. Now, in this game, surprisingly, Oficrete was the aggressor and considered too many yellow cards. They usually are composed and Panathinaikos capitalized. Oficrete will want to bounce back in their next game because this was not their usual kind of game. And I don't think I was so much wrong because the win for Panathinaikos was early and scrappy and they defended well. Offi was, of course, in the game yet, but things just didn't work out for this game. And that's just how these games are. Now, this is a kind of typical jackpot game where you get Union Berlin and FSV Mainz. One team that was on a very good run of form up until Bayer Leverkusen won 1-0, and the other one was in a very, very poor form and was collecting losses. Now, Union Berlin finally broke their winless streak with a gritty performance against Mainz, who will now want to recover from these defeats. Now, they've had now two on the bounce, 2-1 here and 1-0 to Leverkusen. Prior to that, they were very good. So, I don't know what to take, but I think Mainz is a good outing. Well, Levadiakos versus Asteras Tripoli. Levadiakos usually have strong defense, but Asteras Tripoli this time round was on a match for that. So they showed consistency, and Levadiakos failed to keep up. Now, as for me, what I would say against Levadiakos is that they were solid up until they met up this team. They had been scrapping draws, but Estelas needed the win more. And you could reckon because Estelas has something to fight for in the league. Levadiakos probably mid-table is good for them. So it was an out encounter. Well, Lugano versus FC Basel, I had predicted Basel to win based on the stats. Now, this was a tight tested match. Top tables, top table outings, and Basel kind of showed some metrics, but now this game now showed signs of sides that are matching each other on everything, based on quality, based on set pieces, based on everything, you could say. So this one, number one versus number two, this one was a close match. And you expect them to kind of go on that run up to the end of the season, probably. I had predicted Cararis to surprise us against Spezia, but Spezia surprised us. So there was no surprises here because Spezia now being on the higher side of the table. I think in this game, what really happened is Cararis just dropped off. They had been having a better running than Spezia, who was struggling to score. So how and the way they came to Spezia scoring 4 goals against Cararis, who had a good defense, and Spezia, who had been struggling to score, actually caught me off guard. And these are the kind of matches that, well, I don't know how to say them, but they are one-offs. And jackpots categories base themselves for, and they actually like these kinds of games, I would say that. So Auxerre's poor form has been found out, and I think people kind of were predicting an Auxerre to bounce back, but I think Auxerre had been found out. They were good come the first part of the season, but Angers now are on a very good run of form. Now those are 3 wins on the bounce, and they are rolling their wins well. I think these are teams in contrasting trajectories, and Angers could keep on winning. So Osasuna versus Rayo Vallecano. I don't know how to say this, but I think Spain's mid-table opposition or mid-table teams are becoming notorious outings for jackpots to pick. They are very, very tactical matches because they either end in spellmates or the one team that you don't expect to win goes on and wins. So those two teams, I don't know. You couldn't even predict them. I said Vallecano was better slightly based on the fact that it shoots more often. But in this game, it was kind of negated to shoot less. They only had, I think, 5 shots. The whole game was 3. And that's why they encountered a draw, but they scored. The main thing is they scored. And I had surely better than them to score. So Osasuna returned late and yeah. These games will surely be ending in draws most of the time for La Liga outings. So Panathinaikos versus AK Athens. So this was a derby, an Athens derby, and Panathinaikos had a better running form going into this clash or match, and it showed. They outplayed AK in every department. Not every department. AK was the dominant, as per se, in terms of possession wise. But most of the things that Panathinaikos did were better on all fronts. So the shaky defense of AK might have cost them this game. And I think against Olympiacos, that game might come in the jackpot. I would surely ace that game to go on a draw because Panathinaikos have a better defense. It will be a draw that game, probably. And that wraps up this week's Mega Jackpot Recap Series 2. Well, football is wild and unpredictable. But I hope you've picked up a thing or two about this week's games. So until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe next week we will get closer and closer to cracking the jackpot. Do not forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. So till next time, it's a bye-bye for me.